morning, and then we have the second time for returning students or new students that are in high school, in case you could not make the first morning appointment. So I'm very happy to see you all here, very grateful that you're here, and very happy to welcome you all back. Very quickly, we are going to try to keep the meeting down to about 45 minutes. I know many of you probably left work early, so if you have any questions or issues like that, I'll stick around a few minutes afterwards, but I hope to cover everything as much as possible so that you can get your information and go ahead and be able to move back on with your day. So welcome to the opening of school orientation for 2019-2020. We'd like to start with our school vision. Our vision for the future is to be the best choice for highly artistic students to receive an innovative, challenging, and rigorous liberal arts education. We will provide an inspiring growth environment sparking curiosity in all students as they develop intellectually, creatively, and artistically toward the achievement of career goals and becoming lifelong learners. Miami Arts will provide a rigorous academic education that considers the fine arts a core educational priority. Our goal is to awaken students' minds and hearts through an expectation of high confidence from all, providing instruction clearly related to the world and developing autonomy skills, leading to an elevated sense of student ownership for learning. Through an intensive immersion in the advanced core subjects as well as the fine arts, students will develop a sense of connection to one another and the world. Specializing in instruction in music, dance, visual art, drama, and creative writing, Miami Arts Charter School will provide students with opportunities to achieve excellence through meaningful work and inspiring performance experiences that will propel artistic creativity, exciting them about life itself. That's a mouthful, but we always like to make sure that at the very least, everything we do for the beginning of the year is based on our vision and our mission. So we're going to get right to, please remember that the first day of school is Monday, August 19th. Our middle school and high school hours have changed slightly. This is because we have done away with the 7th period literacy lab in the middle school, which affects our dismissal time. I do want to remind everybody that we still do have a traffic operations plan with Miami-Dade County, in which we agreed to not dismiss all students at one time in the afternoons, which is why we will always find that we dismiss at 2 different times in the afternoons, and that's to avoid massive congestion and gridlock out on the streets for the neighborhood. That's an agreement that we made with the county back to when the facility was built in order to secure an approval. So you will always find that at least there will be 50 minutes between dismissal times in each of our bell schedules every year. So middle school and high school, they do start at the same time because kids come in at different times for drop-off in the morning. It's only the afternoons that are of concern. Middle school students will be dismissed this year. Please make note, this is a change at 2 p.m. and 2:55 p.m. is the high school dismissal. There are numerous private vendors in service to school for transportation. That has not changed from the past. Some of them are here today. You are not obligated to go with any of them. If you have your own that you prefer, you're certainly welcome to do that. And parents wishing to be added to our carpool list, we provide that as a resource as well for students who may live close to someone and they wish to know who they are so that they can collaborate with a carpool. If you send an email expressing your interest to Anthony Perez, who is Ms. Delrose's assistant at heyperez@miamiartscharter.net, he will provide you with the information that you need. And basically that'll be a link for you to complete an online form that will add your information to it. And as that list gets updated, it gets recirculated and resent out for those of you that are interested in sharing your contact information to organize a carpool. Morning drop-off. Please remember that our goal is always safety at all times. We're going to ask that you cooperate by not waiting throughout the entire school campus on different parking levels in the morning for drop-off or anything like that. Again, our entire traffic operation plan is based on a certain flow of traffic for students who either commute here, others walk here, others take a bus. And so our plan is designed to make sure that the traffic is balanced and that we don't cause massive congestion on 23rd and 24th Street, causing safety issues or creating congestion problems for our neighbors. So upon morning drop-off, students are to report and remain in the lunch area, not all over the building, until 7:50. Supervision is provided at that time. While I'm on that topic, I just want to go off script here a little bit and let you know that we are in the process of installing heavy-duty shade sails up on the roof. So the months at the end of the school year and the months closest to the opening of the school year, which are the school months closest to the summer when it's really hot up there, for the time being, we're going to continue to have an alternative plan where kids will not necessarily be forced to be up there if they don't wish to be there during lunch hour or other times. We'll have indoor lunch, similar to what we do on rainy days. But the vendor, the contractor, both a combination of school funds, donations, and contributors, we are getting permitted and designed very, very large sails that will cover a significant part of that roof upstairs, and we will have some relief from the sun up there very soon. So in the meantime, yes, I'm sure you're you know, you're not out there in very uncomfortable conditions. We appreciate everybody's patience on that. Of course, for a 6-story building, we can't just put whatever we want up there. Those have to be engineered. They have to pass code inspections for you know, wind lift and things like that. We want to make sure that it's safe and that it's lasting. We expect the structure that we're going to put up, which is sails, to last about 15 years, and we should have those up. You know, everything is in process right now. We have a contractor that's working on that for us. So thank you for that. The students may not generally enter the other interior parts of the building in the morning until 7:50. Now, subject to what I just said, if we have to make a change to that because of the heat conditions, we'll modify that internally. What we don't want is for kids to be in stairwells or in areas that we can't supervise. And the reason we don't let people into the building prior to that is that, remember, in the morning, teachers are preparing for the classes, they're running around, they're running copies, some of them are in parent conferences, some of them are tutoring. So we really don't have the means to allow 1,000 students before the teachers are ready to supervise them before that bell rings. So if you could cooperate with us on that, we'd be very, very grateful. Exceptions to this rule do apply for morning tutoring if a student has a pass because they're receiving tutoring, or if you're a parent coming in for a conference with a student and their teacher, those are exceptions. Rainy days also, or rainy mornings. Procedures. Excuse me. The gates open in the morning at 7 a.m. Please enter using the Northwest 23rd Street entrance. Upon entering the garage, do not make an immediate left. If you're new to the building, if you're returning, you already know what I'm talking about. Just remember that our plan calls for people to drive in. If you're driving for drop-off, going through 23rd Street, go all the way around, drop off in front of the glass where the main office is. Right in front of the glass area there, and then you take the stairwells up. Follow the roundabout to drop your child off in front of the main office. Students are to use the stairwells to enter the building. Students must not enter through the main office. Remember, the main office is a very small area, so don't go through the main office and try to take the elevators because that space is just too small. So we have 3 stairwells out of the 4 corners. One of them is not there, obviously, because of the drive-up ramp, but you can use the other 3 with no problem when you come in the morning. Parents must exit through Northwest 23rd Street exit or Northwest 24th Street exit. Please note that 24th Street is a right turn only, going one way. So if you're going the opposite direction, you'll want to consider 23rd Street, even though we encourage people to always exit the building and make a right turn immediately rather than stand there waiting for traffic. The other way, you have a line of cars behind you. So if you could, at either of our exits, make a right to exit, it'll help us keep the traffic flow moving along much better. Visitor parking for teacher conferences are the spaces right at the very front when you first come in on 23rd Street, with the little guardhouses there made of glass on the right-hand corner, that whole wall on the right-hand side. If you're ever here for a parent meeting or something, you have to get out of your car, that is the temporary parking that you can take advantage right there, so you don't have to take elevators or take stairs. Please adhere to all stop signs and speed limits in our garage, and do not unload or load students at intersections or on the private street. I know that, in the mornings or in the afternoons you have appointments or you're trying to get to work, but just remember, part of our agreement is that every year it's my job to educate the community about what not to do out there to keep things flowing. Parents will sometimes be in a rush and they just drop the students off, 50 feet away from school, right in the middle of the street. There's other cars coming by, it blocks traffic while you're doing that, I understand. But remember that none of these rules are to inconvenience you. They're all just to make sure that, number one, students are safe, that they're not in harm's way by cars that might hit them, inadvertently, and number two, to avoid traffic congestion and having a disorderly situation outside. Please remember to always drive safely on the campus. Don't speed down the ramp. Some of our students drive. Student parking is on the second floor, so students, again, remember it's a privilege to drive your car to school. We're happy that you can do it, but don't speed inside the garage, especially coming down the ramp. Be careful coming out, obey all the traffic signals that are there, and remember to always drive slowly in the area. Okay? For afternoon pickup procedures, the gates open at 1:30. Parents may not park on the first or third floor. If you're coming early to wait for your child to be dismissed, please do that on the second floor, as third floor parking is for staff only, and you won't have very much parking up there anyway. Cars must enter the garage when you first get here and proceed up to the second floor. As long as there's parking available, you will be allowed up there. If that becomes full, with the first early arrivals, then we will do an overflow to the first floor as an alternative. But we prefer for parents that are going to wait for their children to be dismissed to do so on the second floor, and once those kids get used to it and they know that's where you're going to be, they can be dismissed to the second floor. When that bell rings, they can just go to the second floor exit, the stairs, and go directly to the car. They don't have to go downstairs, obviously, to the first floor. Again, you may exit through either 23rd or 24th. All gates this year are closed at 4 p.m. School bus commuters. If you're taking a bus to school every day, the buses will drop off students on Northwest 24th Street. And we ask for parents that come, or students, or anybody else, to remember that the bus bays on 24th Street, do not block them. If you get here before a bus does, please don't park there, because then we run into jams trying to figure out whose car that is. We try to have early in the morning cones put up so that people don't park there. But during school hours, the bus bay on 24th Street, which is a part of the side of the street that's indented in towards the school, that's reserved for buses. So please maintain that clear. And make sure, students, that when you come, no matter where you get dropped off, always take the nearest stairwell. So if you're on 24th Street, take the 24th Street stairwell. If you're on 23rd, take one of the other two. Don't cut through the parking on the first floor where cars are circling around because you have a friend over there or whatever. Just take the nearest exit and just meet up with them later. This is to avoid pedestrian traffic from crossing in front of automobiles, okay? Dismissal, the bus loading is also on 24th Street, and students should exit using the closest stairwell. So if you have a 7th period class that you're dismissing from and the bus is on 24th Street, make sure that you try to go down that same stairwell every day. That helps us distribute traffic in the building, and it helps us control things much easier, and it avoids people cutting through our parking garage after school when everybody else is trying to rush through to get their kids. Students who are dismissed an hour before their bus arrives must wait in the lunch area and other other designated areas. If you're wondering why that would be the case, remember that some of our school buses service both middle and high school kids. So because one group gets out earlier than the other, the group that gets dismissed earlier, the middle school group, has to wait because if that same bus is waiting to pick up kids who haven't dismissed yet, they don't have time to do the drop-off and come back and then go out again. So unfortunately, that's something we've dealt with that for about 10 years, and we have it down now to a pretty good operating system as long as everybody cooperates with it. So we don't mind the students that have to wait, but we want to make sure that students are safe at all times. So you have to be in a designated waiting area. You're not supposed to be leaving campus or go to the Salty Donut or do all that stuff and then come back. We prefer that you not do that just so that we can keep track of things much better. After school events, we don't have an after school stuff no later than 30 minutes after whatever time they are dismissed. Unless they are participating in a scheduled tutoring session or attending a school-sponsored club meeting or event, attending a school-sponsored field trip or event, or an arts program rehearsal or concert. Now, when a teacher asks a student to remain in school, the parent's expectation and our expectation from the teacher is that that's the same as if it was a school day. So you should know that we do this in the interest of safety of the students, is if a teacher tells a student they're staying until 5 o'clock for a dance rehearsal, that day is extended for the student. It doesn't mean, and the students I'm talking to in particular, a lot of times students will say, well, it's after school, I can go off campus and do this and do that. The reason you can't do that is because your parent is under the expectation that you're in school and that you're being supervised. They're not expecting that you're leaving campus to do anything. So I tell the teachers all the time that when we announce that there's a rehearsal, the expectation is that we are watching those rehearsals or a tutoring session. If the teacher cannot be available for it, then the students are advised to go home or not to hold that event. Because an after-school activity under the school supervision is the same as being in school. All safety rules apply. On that same token, once an event is over, it's up to the parent to make sure that the child is picked up no more than 30 minutes after it. Every year we have students that it'll be as late as 6:30, 7 o'clock, and they're out there on the street. You have to understand, we can't keep people here from 7:15 in the morning to 7:15, 8 o'clock at night waiting for parents to pick kids up. So we ask that you please cooperate and make your arrangements so that, if the rehearsal's over at 4:30, we'll keep a teacher here till 5, but after that, that person has a right to go home. And nobody ever feels comfortable leaving knowing that one or two of their kids that were just with them is out there waiting on a sidewalk or something when the school's closed. We're not comfortable with that. So please, govern yourselves according to that. There's a limit of time that we can have people here after school, after events. Okay. Troubleshooting hiring everybody as happy as possible, but there will be times and occasions where perhaps you feel that you need to express a concern about something in the classroom. Please abide by the following, which is in place to make sure that you get a response and that problems are solved as quickly and effectively as possible. So number one, for issues relating to academic things in the classroom, the first person to speak to is that teacher. Sometimes parents will email me directly, not going to the teacher at all. Sometimes it may be because they feel some type of reprisal or repercussion. I can assure you that that is not ever going to be the case, because I would stop such a thing from occurring. I think we go above and beyond to make sure that anytime you have an issue like that we have a professional staff that can address things based on a policy. And usually the things that will make it up to me or that get escalated or elevated are things that maybe have never happened before, and whoever's dealing with it doesn't quite know what the policy is to handle it. But usually, everything from missing assignments in the grade book to a GPA issue to a conference, those are all things that we have clear policies on, that it doesn't take the principal to resolve it. And further, the teacher deserves a professional courtesy to be notified that there's an issue that a parent is unhappy with to begin with. So my personal policy is if I get an email directly and I see that the teacher's not even aware, I just forward the email to the teacher. And if necessary, I'll have that discussion with them. And I expect in return for that teacher to deal with it professionally, contact you and fix whatever the problem is. If that does not happen, then based on the nature of the problem, it can either go to a counselor, which we have a new counselor this year, you'll be happy to know. Yes. Ms. Amy Hernandez or Mr. George Lorenzo, either one of them can handle a parent conference or parent conversation about the student. We have Mr. Diaz, who's back this year as Assistant Principal for Operations and School Safety. So Mr. Diaz will deal with everything having to do with our facility, student discipline, code of conduct issues, and things like that. Or if it's an academic-related issue, our Assistant Principal for Academics and Student Support Services, Ms. Carolina Torres. Ms. Torres is back on this campus after years of being at the Homestead campus, but she has been with us since the first day that MAC opened at 3900. We moved her to the Homestead location, which is no more. And we are back to one campus here, and Ms. Torres is here in charge of academics, counseling services, and things like that. So those are the two other assistant principals. If something cannot be resolved at that point, they will be certain to bring it to my attention or Ms. De La Rosa as co-founder or director of the school, and we will do all we can to help you to make sure that the situation is resolved. Okay? Very quick. This section is going to be a little bit lengthy. I'm trying not to bore you too much, but after the tragic events of Parkland, at first, many of us in the education community, and yourselves included, scrambled to find out what was the new direction and how were we going to organize ourselves to be better prepared and more responsive and more effectively be able to respond to critical threats. So first I want to take a few minutes to go over some things that you need to know about, some things that we have been, as principals made responsible for notifying you about, and just some general things that are both either coming from the state or coming from us in our efforts to make sure that our students are always safe and secure and that we're having a great educational experience here every day. So number one, and of course I don't have time to go into every last detail, but if you should choose, or if you're curious to know what are the details that the state of Florida, what are the Senate's bills that have most impacted things after the tragic events that occurred about a year or so ago. Those would be for you to research online, Senate Bills 7026 and 7030. The schools also implemented policies to support student safety beyond what is in the law, as we would all reasonably come to expect. So a quick review here of things that you should be aware of so that you know what we're doing and what the state has done to make sure. And this is true for all schools in the state of Florida, not just here at MAC. Armed guards are required at every school. Of course, there are 2 or 3 different versions by which that can be selected at a school. At our school, we have elected to just do what we've been doing since the second day of Parkland. Before it was a law, I immediately hired off-duty City of Miami police officers. But schools can also choose to have trained armed guardians and security guards at their locations based on certain criteria and protocol that requires training of staff and so forth. We find that it's just a lot easier for us to go with hired sworn police officers. Mr. Gilbert Perez, who is the officer that you usually see there on Mondays, is very, very good. Gilbert is former military. He's attached to the City of Miami Police Department's terrorism unit. He's a personal guard for foreign dignitaries and presidents of foreign countries when they visit Miami. He's very, very experienced. At one point in his career, he guarded nuclear weapons. And I got to know Gilbert through a student crisis situation once, and he's been our consultant ever since. He's also our lead SRO. You will not see the same police officer every day because obviously they have their regular police functions. So he coordinates them all, but Monday through Friday, half an hour before school starts and half an hour after the last bell rings, we have a police officer, a sworn police officer present. Every school has also developed a mental health plan, a mental health application plan, which is basically a roadmap or a simple procedures guideline of our policy as to how we deal with students, or what is the protocol for us to address students with mental health issues. That is just a starting point of one of the things that are required that we've been doing since last year, and it's basically a step-by-step procedural guide. It's only a few pages long, but every school has a mental health application plan, which identifies what the procedures are, who are the people who are our guidance staff and our mental health people here on campus, and how will we function when we have a student that we need to deal with and address. Every staff member in Florida, you may hear about this more and more as you go along, who is required to be trained in something called Youth Mental Health First Aid. Every staff member, even down to cafeteria workers and security guards. By the way, I should mention that our security guards are no longer contracted out to a company. They are our school employees. We did that also in response to making sure that all these training requirements are consistently followed by everybody. We can only do that if we have guards that work for us every day, the same one, so we determined not to go with a security company anymore. You may see a couple of them that are familiar, but they are now MAC employees who answer directly to me and Mr. Diaz. The Youth Mental Health First Aid Program, eventually every staff member has to be trained in it. However, the infrastructure is not yet in place. Every time they open up a course, they fill up very, very quickly. So the state is working on increasing the amount of courses and training available for all teachers and staff, custodians, cafeteria workers, security guards, teachers, principals, to be trained in youth mental health first aid. In the meantime, as a quick fix, we are doing Cognito, which is an online program. It's not as thorough, but it's a Band-Aid in the meantime until we're able to get everybody in the state trained. But just be aware that that is another requirement that has come out, that all staff members have to be trained in identifying and knowing how to respond and what to do in a situation where they find a student that might be in trouble, might need help. If you could please take out your phones for a moment and go on the App Store. This is also part of the law. You will find an app called Fortify Florida or Fortify FL. All parents, students, teachers, everyone at a school campus is being encouraged to be aware of and utilize Fortify Florida as a quick notification system of when a potential threat becomes evident to you. Now, I'm not an expert on how this is going to be handled. I think it's a state database from what I understand. From the very, very brief things that I've been able to read, in the regular news media, student personal information is not maintained there. And from what I also understand is that after 30 minutes, clears everything out because of privacy and legal issues. So Fortify Florida, when you submit a tip of something that you may have heard or seen, and again, I can only imagine the thousands of people that are going to submit tips. You can also call 911 on that app. But one of the things that we are required to do as a school that we will comply with is that on every machine, every computer, every laptop, every electronic device that the school provides, we must either install the app or save on the web browser. If certain computers don't let you put an app on it because of network firewalls, in the browser have a link to Fortify Florida where students can submit tips on potential threats or anything of concern that involves student safety in a school. The notification chain, I'm under the understanding, this is very new, but I'm under the understanding that will be not only school administrators, but law enforcement as well. And you'll know more as in the coming days as I find out more. But just be aware that you should have Fortify Florida apps on all of your phones, and we highly encourage you to have that. We also will make it available on our websites and in our school electronic devices. There is now a required school safety assessment team, which will consist of the school's principal or a delegate, the counselor, a police officer, and just about anybody else in the school that would be relevant, perhaps an ESC teacher, to meet on a regular basis. Obviously, we hope and we expect that this team will not have a list of 100 kids on it, because then something will be very, very seriously wrong. But in known cases where we have a situation that we're monitoring, that team, by state law, will meet once a month to make determinations on individual students who may need assistance or who may represent some type of threat or concern. Obviously, all the things that were that were taking place in the past regarding student safety have changed a lot. This is one of the major ones. To be on that team, every member has to undergo a 6-hour training session. And they don't just get together and discuss and make a random decision. There's a state-provided assessment instrument that has to be followed and everything documented. So this is basically a brand new department, a whole new section of school operations is mental health, follow through and maintenance of that plan throughout the year. The report's intention is to do more than what was done in the past, which typically, Baker Act a student and have them taken off campus and they would come back a couple of days later. Now, I want to be clear that schools are not going to be mental health centers. We're not licensed for that. But we're doing a lot more to make sure that we are increasing communication, providing support, bringing resources, getting parents engaged, and doing everything that we can to make sure that at least, the most pressing situations with students on campus are being addressed and not being ignored and that they're properly being recognized, which I think is a very good idea. I already mentioned the standard behavioral assessment instrument. That's just a document procedure that is the document that guides us as we do safety assessment meetings. That's not something that you as a parent would be involved with necessarily. There's also a requirement that every staff member in the school do what is called the CRAZE training, which is Civilian Response to Active Shooter Response Training. It's abbreviated CRAZE. It's a very brief thing. It basically consists of maybe a 5-minute video and some very basic instructions as to what to do in a situation where, God forbid, and again, there's a lot of students here, and I said this at the last meeting, and I want to reiterate. I want everybody to know that the chances of something like this happening are indeed very slim. We do not want students coming to school terrified every day. None of this is being done to frighten people. We're doing this to make sure that the chances of this happening here are even slighter than they already are. The last thing we want is for kids to feel that they can't go to school and feel safe, and we're going to do everything that we can to do what we have to do, but to also make sure that the kids have a great, healthy, enjoyable experience like they deserve every day. This is still school. It's very important for us that they understand that they should lead their lives as normal, enjoy, participate in their arts, do well in their academics, but all of us have to work together to make sure that when that occasional potential threat is there, that we all know what to do to support one another to make sure that everything is as it should be. So that CRAZE training is just one thing that we're doing. We are exceeding it. Next week, all of our staff, which are here present today in school, we just told them they didn't have to be here for the meeting so that they could prepare. But our entire staff will also be undergoing next week SHIELD training with the City of Miami Police Department. It's basically the same thing, active shooter training, but in a lot more detail. The kids are not involved in that. That's training for the adults to make sure that if something should happen, we are highly trained to be able to minimize the damages that something like that could bring. So be aware that our teachers are also, all of our staff are also participating in the SHIELD training with the police department. Another thing that you should be aware of is that the new state laws have increased the amount of safety drills that schools must conduct. We've always had to do fire drills, as you're aware, 1 a month. There's 10 months in a school year, so there's roughly 10, there are 10 fire drills a year. But there will also be 1 active shooter drill per month, so expect 10 of those. And there's another 10 drills that schools will do, but it'll be 5 of each, alternatively. Every month it'll flip-flop. And that includes a bomb threat drill and a hostage drill. So if you started with a hostage drill, the next month you do a bomb threat, back and forth. So there's now there's basically 30 drills a year that are taking place at 3 a month. That is also in new state law. We have an ongoing school safety assessment plan, which is not shared with you or with the public, not even under public requests, which is everything having to do with the safety scenario in our school, and it's a tool that we use to share information with law enforcement and to assess our own building, and that's an ongoing instrument that we're constantly revisiting to make sure that wherever we see we need to make a change for the sake of making things safer, we will. That document is not shared with the public, but please know that Miami Arts also complies with that the way that we're supposed to. And of course, other regular options still remain. You know, we can still Baker Act students. As you know, the Baker Act allows for someone who is not formally under arrest to be held against their will if they present a threat to themselves, to injure themselves or someone else. But it takes a lot more steps to get to that point because we know that that is not always the best thing for a student. You have a lot more steps in the meantime before we get to that point. Additional things that we're doing here at MAC, beyond what is statutorily required, you know, all of our teachers are getting elevated instruction because there's a lot more that can go on in a crisis. We want the students to be, you know, happy and emotionally well on a daily basis. So principles of classroom management training takes place on an ongoing basis, particularly this week and next week when our teachers are here. You know, protocols for classroom, how to maintain a healthy classroom environment, how to manage your kids as safely as possible. And I want the students in the room to understand that we hold the teachers very accountable for this, but we're asking you to also be a part of that, okay? Teaching is not easy, and sometimes you might think that certain things are fun and games in the classroom, but really it's not a healthy thing, it's not a positive thing to be disruptive in classroom, intentionally circumvent the rules in school. So please be aware that just like we want teachers to do the right thing every day in the classroom, we want you guys, students, to be constantly at your best, you know, not disrupting, not disrespecting, not getting engaged in situations with your friends that you should not be engaged in. And if you all cooperate together, I think we're going to have a very, very smooth year. Parent communication policies and procedures are being trained to our teachers as well. This is always a challenging one because there's many of you and only a few of us, and they have many, many students. But be aware that, you know, we understand how important communication is to you. We know that it's difficult when you're calling the front office through the switchboard. We're working on improving that system right now as we speak so that you don't have to go through a lot of, you know, buttons to press to get to the office that you need and so forth. But that is part of our additional school policies that we're looking to make sure work smoothly. Parent communication documentation procedures. Our teachers are being trained to document when they have meetings with you, when they have communication with you, to make sure that they write down what was agreed, to make sure that, you know, people aren't disappointed and that everybody's on the same page regarding whatever's going to happen. Common classroom configuration. Teachers are in charge of their rooms. It is their domain, but there are basic requirements that we are imposing as far as, you know, standardized ways of submitting work. Everybody has to have a course syllabus. The classrooms all have to have a basic minimum level of how communication goes back and forth. What are the protocols for feedback? You know, how long should it be before a student knows, either in the grade book or in person, how they did on the test? You know, I know from time to time people say, well, I took a test 3 weeks ago, never found out how I did. Little things like that either through surveys or conversations with you have been brought to my attention, and so I bring it up with my teachers. If you have a child that takes a test in class and, you know, you want to see how they did, we encourage teachers, even if it's just take a picture and then pass it to their email to forward to you. We do keep the original assignments in class because the teacher will need evidence later to substantiate why the grades in the grade book are what they are. But you also deserve to see that so that you can help at home and support for grades to get better. Non-bias, non-discrimination, or indoctrination policy in school. From time to time, I know that in English classes, social studies classes, even science classes, students talk or teachers hold discussions about controversial subjects. There's certainly nothing wrong with speaking about current events or even talking about the hot topics of the day. We know that we live in a very politically tumultuous age in the country's history, and that's fine. However, the teacher is not there to serve as an indoctrinator. The teacher is there as basically a guiding hand to make sure that students have the tools and the resources to make sure that they make educated decisions based on facts, and they are there to lead. But the classroom is not a place where a teacher should take advantage of the fact that they have a captive audience and to impose their own political views or any particular view on a student. We have a firm policy against that. So our teachers will be trained, and students, you should always feel free to come to see me if you feel that you're ever in a situation that because you have a position or an opinion that is different from the majority of your friends in the class, that you may not be allowed to express it. That's not right. Now, of course, we draw the line at disrespect, profanity, or other code of conduct violations. But you should feel always free to speak your mind as long as you do it respectfully. And our students are never going to learn to speak to people with whom they disagree if we don't give them the forum and the ability to do so in a respectful environment. And nowadays, I think we need that more than ever. So when the teacher has their own agenda, I think that makes it very difficult for that student to feel free. So the teacher's opinions in a classroom should not be evident or relevant to the situation at hand. It is the parent's job, based on their values, to try to impose their values on their children. And with an 18-year-old, they can only tell you that they only go so far before it doesn't happen anymore. Rarely does. But you know what I'm talking about. We want our classrooms to be places of integrity. We don't want to be a part of the environment that's prevalent out there on social media. We understand that it's everywhere. But as the school's leadership, we aspire for at least there to be a place where students can come in their day and expect some type of decorum in the way that they can express themselves, rather than what typically goes on in the world, sadly. Okay? So if you have a problem with that, always feel free to see me. And students frequently do come and see me when they have an issue. I respond to students a lot quicker than I do to parents, mostly because they're here already, and because I think it's important for students to know that no matter how busy the principal is, if they come to him, he will respond. It's a big deal to me for them to know that they can come see me, okay? I added on here student protest policy, which is not on our regular PowerPoints on a regular basis, but as of last year, we put it on. We never know when the next major incident will occur. As you know, during the Parkland incident, or just after it, there was a lot of controversy and kids staging walkouts and protests, and we never know when the next time that something like that is going to happen. And it's better to be prepared for it from an administrative point of view than to have to react to it when, all hell's breaking loose. So parents, number one, what you need to know, as a 501c3 and as a public charter school, our position is not to take a position. Our position is to make sure that students learn and that they are safe at all times. Last year, a few parents emailed me, why aren't you out there protesting with the kids? And that's because, again, touching back on our non-indoctrination policy, my views are my views. Your views are your views. Our goal is not to be a politically active school. Our goal is to make sure that students are given the tools for them to learn how to function in a free society on their own. If students decide to walk off of a campus, our plan is that teachers will remain in their classroom with those who do not. And typically, a large number of kids do not conduct the walkouts either because they may not believe in that cause, or they don't believe that's the way to do it, or their parent will say, if you walk out, I'm going to kill you. One of those three. Okay? We had all of those. And then you will have others who choose to do it. The Supreme Court has ample evidence. Students have freedom of speech rights. We will not block doors or suspend students or anything like that. But what they need to understand is that our responsibility, no matter what's going on in the world, is that we have to keep the kids safe. So the only people that would be outside to supervise something like this, and again, I'm not encouraging kids to do walkouts. I don't think that they're particularly effective, but that's just my view as a principal. As I said, we are not ever going to stop people from expressing themselves because that's part of being an American. But we do hold the responsibility to keep them safe. Now, on a case-by-case basis, if I see a particular kid who's really losing it, and they're about to walk into a very dangerous situation. We do try to identify those kids and call the parent and say, hey, look, this is what's going on, and hopefully the parent can step in and assist us. If it's a protest, if a group of students want to do a manifestation up on the rooftop, or if they want to have a discussion here in the theater, that's something that we do normally. That's just an activity. All they have to do is go to the activities office, organize it. We make sure that there's an adult there, but we don't necessarily espouse that view. That's just like a campus event that's happening, and we're providing this facility. If on the very next day, a group that's completely opposed to that view wants to do the same thing, again, as long as regular code of conduct rules are being followed, we will approve that as well. We are not here to take sides. We're here to teach them what is the right way to go about living in a free society, and they certainly have a right to express themselves. It doesn't matter whether they agree with me or not. Most people don't agree with me. I'm used to it, so I don't take it personally, okay? But please know that what we want is for you to feel comfortable and understand that your school supports you, and our goal is education and safety. Beyond that, we leave that up to parents and students to make their own decisions. We're one school. We are here for the arts and academics. We're not here to change the entire planet or the entire world. And if we try to get engaged in that kind of thing, that's when our kids start, we start getting into unneeded, controversial situations and potentially unsafe situations. So that's our position, parents. We will always try to keep you informed of everything that happens. Hopefully, we won't have any incidents this year. We won't have any major catastrophes, but as we turn on the news every day, we know that they do happen. So we have to be prepared for it, okay? Make sure I'm trying to keep us on time here. We do want students to be more aware of the code of conduct. Schools now are reporting on a regular basis under the CESR program. Anytime a level 3, 4, or 5 violation takes place, we are required anonymously. The student is not particularly named in the code of conduct violations, code of conduct policy. Level 3, 4s, and 5s are the very serious infractions that a student can commit in school. 1s and 2s are the lower ones. So please be aware that we do report those, and it's important for students to understand. Keep your hands to yourself at all times. If you look through the code of conduct, I'll give you a simple example that you might not be aware of. If a student comes to me and says that another student did X, Y, Z, and put their hands on them, whether you realize that or not, that's called battery. Battery automatically rises to like a level 3, which requires police involvement. And I know that kids like to play around with each other. They'll be at lunch and they'll jump on each other, or a boy likes a girl and he's trying to get her attention, they're immature, and he kind of whatever this is, oh, he touched me inappropriately. Guess what? You just opened up a whole can of worms, okay? So students, please keep your hands to yourselves. These long extended hugs, sitting on each other's laps, and all these things that kids like to do. All it takes is for one student to say that was not appropriate, and now we have a situation going. So use your common sense, okay? I'm not trying to make everybody paranoid, but understand that we document everything. We're required to do so. We always have been, and more so now. Remember that in the code of conduct, when a teacher or an adult wants to refer something to the administration, it's done officially through what is called the student case management, the famous referral form, because that's documentation. But that's not the punishment. Sometimes the parent will say, oh, it was my kid's first time, can't you take off the referral? And the answer to that question is no, because the referral is not punishment. Now, I agree that it's not a good thing to have a referral on your record in the school district computer that follows you until you graduate. I agree. But only you can prevent that. You can prevent that by not violating the code of conduct and not doing things that people report as inappropriate behavior. But if it takes place, I must document it. Now, the consequence can be as simple as just bring you to my office or to Mr. Diaz's office, and he calls your mom and says, don't do it again. Parent conference held, and that's it. It's over. It's done. But sometimes a student will be involved in something. The parent will email and say, can you take off the referral? I'm required as a principal to document everything that happens as a violation of student code of conduct. So none of us wants that to occur. So again, students, think before you act. Certainly want you to be friendly with one another, but when it comes to that type of thing, putting your hands on people, touching kids, another thing, parents, I can't tell you enough about the dangers of the cell phones. 9 out of every 10 incidents that come to my office started on the cell phone. The kids in the room, I know that to you it's no big deal because everybody else is doing it. But every time you're on those social media pages and you're engaged in things that you're not supposed to be engaged in, just be aware. Don't be surprised when something negative comes out of it. And I'm obligated to do what I have to do. In a perfect world for me, I would love to know that you guys are all coming here every day, that you're safe, that you're getting great grades, that you're getting ready for college, and that you're becoming phenomenal artists in your area. That's all we want. Once you start going into the other territories of the vaping and the bullying and the Instagram and the secret accounts online that your parents don't know about, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're sleeping with the phone under your pillow, I know, I have a daughter. Okay? And your sleep is disrupted and you're getting into fights with your friends and you're sending pictures to one friend that you didn't want to get out and all the other friends got it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the story of my life every day. Okay? And it is a real pain in the neck. Okay? So to the parents and students in the room, I can't be a parent to everybody, and so we have a cell phone ban policy. But parents, I'm telling you right now, 99.9% of all discipline is now coming to my office from the phone. If you can get rid of the phone, or at least make sure that it's being used as appropriately as possible, you and I are both doing ourselves a tremendous favor, because it is absolutely terrible what's going on with those phones right now and children. It's just not a good situation. I know the kids don't want to hear that. If you ever want to give your child an immediate meltdown, take their phone away. It's unbelievable. They are so hooked on those things, all right? But it disturbs your sleep, it disturbs your well-being, it makes you inattentive in class. Some of them try to sit there with their phone in their sweater, and the teacher's talking to them, trying to text their friend with their thumb. It's just really, and I understand that we're here to stay. We're not trying to run like a Nazi camp here. All I'm giving you is friendly advice, okay? All I'm giving you is friendly advice. If you look after yourself, everything else will take its own way, okay? If you create problems that you bring upon yourself, you have yourself to thank for it, kids, okay? If you do stuff you're not supposed to be doing, don't be surprised when the outcome is not a good one or a pleasant one. But one thing is for sure, we want to be reasonable. We're always going to be fair. I understand it's an art school. Like I said, I've got my own kid. I've been teaching for 30 years, and we don't want to be unreasonable and hard on kids. But when the time comes that the code of conduct has to be enforced, it's going to be enforced. It's not a pick and choose. It's not selective. So please make sure, keep yourself out of trouble. Focus on having a really positive, academic, peaceful year. Beyond that, anything negative you bring on yourself, you brought it on yourself, you have yourself to blame. Okay? Crisis communication plan. Should there happen to be an incident that goes on, we are working on very soon having something that is not this email blast system that we have from our website, because I've got no way of controlling who's on it, who's not. I'm not sure that all parents are on there. It's actually not the easiest thing. Now, internally here in staff, we're using the Remind app. We are trying to ascertain if that app or another one is also adequate to get information out to you. I'll give you an example. Last year, 3 or 4 blocks away, some lady barricaded herself in the car, and my goodness, you would have thought the sky was falling, and the traffic was deviated, and of course the kids all started texting mom and dad. Next thing I knew, I had to go from principal to crisis manager when I didn't even know what the heck was going on myself. So we would like to have a system where I can text directly from the administration directly into your cell phone and know that it is going to the right people. Right now, we don't really have that system in place 100% because it's based on those of you that subscribe to it. So please bear with us. As soon as I know what works best, it's a very difficult thing to do. We will put it in place to make sure that, that I know for a fact. I prefer texting, some mass texting service rather than email, because I know it's quick, direct, right into your phones. But we are working on that, and hopefully we'll have instructions on that for you very soon. Student supervision policies, whether they be in the classroom, the common areas, after school, or lunch. That's something else that we're talking to our teachers about. Students, please remember that when you're on campus, you're on campus. It doesn't matter if it's before school, after school, and that you're not in a particular classroom. If you're in our bathrooms, if you're in the corridors, if you're upstairs in the lunch area, if you're right outside in the front of the sidewalk, supervision, if it's after school and you're waiting for your bus, that's understood. But if you're here for an activity, if you're in your math class and you went to the restroom and you're coming back, you're still expected, to be a supervised student. So, ladies, don't rendezvous and have ladies' meetings in the restroom to talk about the latest boyfriend-girlfriend breakup. Don't eat lunch on the floor in the restrooms. I've heard about that. The things they do is unbelievable. Okay. Use common sense, and I want everybody in this room to understand the following. Your school, your principal, your teachers are not your enemies. When we ask you to do something and when we put the rules, it's because I personally and all of us are responsible for you, and I will never impose a rule on the school that is not 100% based on what is best for the student. It's not about what's best for me. It's about what's best for you. You are not always going to agree with things that I tell you to do or that the school tells you to do, but rest assured that by the time you see a policy, our entire leadership team has debated it. Our leadership team that helps me run the school is not just the assistant principals, but also the counselor, the ESC teacher, Ms. Barrero, who's the arts administrator, and all of the department chairs in math, English, science, and social studies. And we have a regular agenda that we meet on a regular basis, because Lord knows from time to time, I'll just shoot from the hip and make a decision that I regret later. So I said, you know what, I should have consulted before I did that. And that happens. But I want the students to know, you know, whenever you see something that bothers you that you think is not fair, always know that we are doing it in your best interest, and decisions can be changed if it ends up that we can find a better way to do things. But do not come to school thinking that your school is your enemy. You know, there's no need to graffiti and vandalize bathrooms or be destructive, because, you know, every day that we come here, all we're trying to do is make this the best place where you can come learn. Okay, we take a lot of pride in that. So please keep that in mind. Downstairs, we're about to close the permits out on a maglock system. So anybody who comes to the front door, let's say that somebody were to steal a master key and make a copy that I don't know in the school or whatever, and they want to try to come into the front glass doors, they would not be able to do so. Ms. Mobley has to let them in by pressing a button. It's a heavy magnetic system, so we're controlling access, one way in, one way out, over where the police officer is on 23rd Street. Please expect and do not think that there's a crisis. We are going to have on a regular basis throughout the school year, by surprise, canine units. I understand that, and by canine I mean drug sniffing dogs. Okay? I kind of enjoyed it because the dogs were really cute this last time that we did it last year. But parents, if it happens, please do not be offended by it and do not think automatically that there's a crisis. And I'm talking, this is the older kids at this meeting, and I want you to know the following. We understand, you know, I personally, in the 30 years that I've been teaching, I have never seen more issues with pot use since it became legal in adult circles. Adults, not children, okay? And also this thing with the vaping. The vaping has gotten so out of hand in the state. At my last principals meeting with the district is currently working on a unified policy of how they are going to address the vaping issue, because the kids, either they know it's dangerous and they're doing it anyway, or they're unaware. But this epidemic with vaping is rampant. Don't think that it's only at one school. It's everywhere. The kids, this thing with the jewels and the little flavors and stuff, we're getting an awful lot of that in all of the schools. To the kids here in the room, I want to once again express to you a very simple fact of life. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean it's okay, doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean that it's not unhealthy. It's all of those things. It's wrong. You shouldn't be doing it. It's distracting, okay? And you have yourself, your own brain, you have your own decisions to make. But when you do those things, just remember, look at the data. If you go out there and do research, kids were smoking, kids were drinking, kids were doing alcohol or marijuana or the vaping. There's a high correlation between that and low academic achievement. So you have a decision to make in life. Are you going to have fun for 2 or 3 years and then just, you know, figure it out later? Or are you going to spend your 4 years in high school trying to get into the best possible university that you can to plan for your future? It's one or the other. I can assure you that. You know, there are a few exceptions here and there, but the majority of the kids that are involved in that stuff, they tend to be the ones that don't have very high academic scores, usually. You know, like I said, there are exceptions. But we are trying to do everything we can to not just make things reactionary where, you know, they get suspended for this or suspended for that, but we want to educate them as much as possible to not be involved in these things. And it's very, very difficult. But we still have to have a basic minimum of what we will not allow here in school. So there will be canine units from time to time. And the way that that works is students, you know, a police officer with a dog will come in with always an administrator present. Goes into a classroom, everybody steps out, the book bag's staying there, the dog does its sniffing, and it notifies us with a cue, and then we ask questions about what's there. We will not only do it with drugs, we will also do it, because there are different types of dogs with you know, explosives and things like that. That's part of our security plan. I personally hate this kind of thing, to be honest, but I think that given the day and age that we live in and the things that we're seeing every day, we have to take some basic reasonable measures to make sure that the kids know that here, this is a respectful, clean place. What they do when they're under their parents' supervision, I can only hope that parents will, monitor and make sure that they do their job on their end. And hopefully that way we will keep all the kids as safe as possible. Student IDs and lanyards, you will get them through Ms. Murga very soon. We're not a uniform school, we are a dress code school, but also students, we're going to encourage you to wear a lanyard that has an ID, and that's just for security reasons. If God forbid something happens and we have to call rescue or fire or police or somebody to come in, and there's 5 or 6 kids around, or a kid is passed out on the floor, and that person doesn't happen to know who it is, we want to be able to have at least your name and your ID number so we can find out who the emergency contact is. So please don't rebel against that. It's your regular student ID, and you'll have a lanyard for it. It's going to take a few days to get that in place. Ms. Morga is putting that together. It'll be done through activities. But you should be expecting to wear your ID at all times. Sometimes students will order pizza for lunch. Don't do that. Parents will like to, because she forgot her breakfast this morning, it's on your own. Parents, we will manage, okay? We'll feed them. But when we have 200 people a day coming and blocking up the office with all these little personal things, remember, those things are distracting, and we have a job to do, getting attendance done and reported on time, making sure that the first floor is safe, the kids are not in hallways. So the more that we have to attend to the public, the less we are attending internally. So unless it's an emergency, please, if a student forgot their insulin or something and they're diabetic, obviously that's an exception. But if they forgot, the balloons for her best friend's birthday party, deal with it elsewhere, okay? Our teachers are being expected, they're being trained on professional responsibility and conduct in the classroom. You should know that. I specifically do a very long, boring meeting like this with them and tell them what they can say and what they should not say and so on and so forth for the benefit of the classroom. And you also have the ability to report professional misconduct by state law through our website or directly, if something really egregious is taking place, please do notify me. Many parents even have my school cell phone number that I give out when I think it's urgent to do so, to make sure I stay in touch with something serious. Social media policy, our teachers are not allowed to be friends on Facebook or Instagram or whatever with our students. Students are not allowed to be engaging with their personal lives and so back and forth. So please stay away from that, and parents should know that that should not be occurring. If by some chance it does, please let me know and I will take care of it and do what I have to do. There is a request to be contacted on our website. When you click contact us, it's actually faster than trying to call in because it goes to a database. When you hit submit, it goes to several of our emails, and I can look at it on my phone and I can see what it's about and to who it is and forward it to them and make sure that you get a quick call that it gets addressed. I'm only one person. I cannot address everything. Like I said, most things, somebody on staff is trained to handle it for me, and I will call those that are either very serious or that they don't know what to do with. Also, our guidance counselor, Ms. Chaffardette, is going to be able to, we determined this year, our CAP, our College Assistance Program, is actually going to be done by a team of very good teachers. CAP is the College Assistance Program as far as making sure that students are exploring options for school, that they're enrolled in Naviance, that they know their SAT deadlines, their ACT deadlines, what are the requirements for universities, college visits, financial aid applications. That team will also coordinate guest master classes for how to properly write an impacting essay for college acceptance. That's all going to be done now through a CAP team of all of our English teachers. Mr. Lavenier, who's coming back to us. If you don't know him, you will, and you will love him. One of our great teachers who's coming back after he left back a few years ago and is coming back. But just so you know, the whole CAP at MAC, College Assistance Program, is being done by a team of teachers, and they're going to have high school students assigned to them to make sure that deadlines for college are met. This is a great thing because it's going to free up our guidance counselor to do the things that she really needs to do, deal with kids who need her help, okay? So be aware of that. We follow the student code of conduct, the student progression plan of Miami-Dade County Schools. So if you're new to MAC, and you're coming from a private school or from another school, we do follow the progression plan for graduation. Remember that to graduate, you must have a minimum GPA. You have to have, at the very least, the GPA is 2.0 required as a minimum, 24 credits for the 24 credit diploma program. We also require 2 years of foreign language, even though that's not necessary for graduation. All state universities require it for Florida Bright Future Scholarship, so We put students in foreign language and Spanish in high school, but we follow the progression plan, which includes pupil monitoring. Our graduation requirements are the same as the school districts. Florida charter school teachers are required to hold the same teaching certificates as traditional public schools, pursuant to the same standards as all public schools. They have teaching certificates and they have to do continuing education and everything else just like a regular public school teacher. Many of our teachers have been traditional public school teachers, including myself. Teachers, you should expect to establish clear goals, assignments, and testing deadlines. They're expected to have a course syllabus where it says what the teacher expects. Hopefully it'll cover a little bit of the scope and sequence, what is the grading scale, what are the deadlines, and important things. So students, it's important for you on that first day to make sure that you get your course syllabi from all your teachers and start organizing yourselves, because turning in assignments late has a way of affecting you again negatively when they all start piling on you. Okay? They start piling up too much. Feedback is crucial for students to improve and for parents to support learning, so students have the right to receive feedback in a timely manner. I already touched on that. You should expect for teachers to give you back feedback when you take a test or something. If you're not, let us know, and we will address that. You should review your syllabi. We talked about that. And please remember that make-up work is only allowed for excused absences. That's the difference between an excused and an unexcused absence, is whether or not you get to make up the work. So we follow the Dade County Schools attendance policy on that. And from time to time, a principal has the authority to excuse an absence for an extenuating circumstance. But by and large, we adhere to the district's attendance policy. Miami, by the way, the Advanced Academic Academy is still on our website and it's still in place. I'm not going to go into a lot of details with it right now, but just be aware that that is the way that you can advance by taking college credits in high school with either dual enrollment or AP. And we're happy, and I'll talk more about it in a minute, to announce that Miami Arts is now an AP capstone school. I will tell you about that in a moment. We have an academic policy good standing requirement. All students are required to maintain a minimum of a C average or better to remain in good standing and to participate in arts and extracurricular activities. Students who are deficient in any academic course may not be permitted to perform or participate in their arts area events. In such cases, the art class grade shall not be lowered as a result of the performance restriction. So if you're failing math and you can't participate in the dance show, the dance teacher's not going to give you an F for not having been in that. But what we want everybody to understand is that the academics are every bit as important as the arts, and it's not good for you or fair to the teacher for you to be failing classes and you're performing as if it's all good and having a great time. That should not be allowed. Waivers to this rule may be issued on a case-by-case basis in consideration of extenuating circumstances or a temporary hardship beyond student control. For example, if you have a relative, you have a death in the family, God forbid, and you have to travel out of the country, and you miss 2 or 3 assignments, and your math grade comes down, when you come back, we're not going to say, oh, sorry, you can't perform. Well, those situations, that's an excused absence, we work that out with the student. This policy is designed and targeted towards that student who doesn't want to turn in their assignments or study for tests, or they're showing up late to school every day and they're just not meeting the academic expectations. There has to be something in place that motivates them to do so. Any student with a grade of F in any class may not receive a waiver to perform by anyone other than the principal or my delegate, no exceptions. So if a student's grade is so low that it's an F, I like to know about it because I need to know how many of them it's been, because the student is now in jeopardy of not getting credit for that course. So typically what happens is I receive through the pupil monitoring plan a regular report of who's not doing well, and then I go on a case-by-case basis and try to find out what's going on with that student's life and why is it that that's going on, okay? A student with a current grade of a D shall be withheld from performing in their art program by the respective academic teacher. A performance waiver may be issued on a case-by-case basis at the academic teacher's discretion. If an English teacher works it out with the drama teacher and they have an understanding that the kid's going to perform, but 3 days, no later than 3 days, the assignments will be turned in, I'm okay with that. Okay? We just want to make sure that the students know that it's all important. It's not just about their one art, the academics are equally important. And most of our kids are pretty compliant with that because most of our students are really good students. Please note this policy also applies to school activities such as field trips or other events. So if you're failing English class, you're not going on that fun field trip with your class on whatever day, all right? All of this applies equally. So special academic programs, we have the Advanced Academic Academy. I won't go into all the details now, but if you go on our website, all the way on the right top menu, you will see it there. And it primarily consists of a plan for you to do AP courses during the school year and dual enrollment in the summer. The reason we prefer the dual enrollment in the summer, number one, is because A, it does not take you off of campus. It's almost impossible for kids to take dual enrollment unless they're upperclassmen, a junior or a senior, and still be here for their arts rehearsals and things like that. So we prefer, and the colleges, by the way, prefer AP. That's number one. Dual enrollment is free. You can take up to 2 of them, and you can take it for the first time after your 8th grade summer in the Advanced Academic Academy. And based on your abilities, by senior year, if you start early enough, you may have almost the 60 credits of an associate's degree, okay, which I want to come back to, hopefully, if we don't run too late, for some important information you need, that I think you should know about that. Now, MAC is an AP capstone school as of this year, and I want to thank Mr. Esperon, who's not here, but he's here on campus. If you were lucky enough to have Mr. Esperon as one of your English teachers in high school, he's been with us for a few years, but he was at our Homestead campus. The man is remarkable. You will love him. You will all fight to be in his class. And about 2 years ago, he started working on our process for being accepted as an AP capstone school. AP, from the College Board's perspective, is almost a rival or a competitor to the IB program. But it's flexible as far as, usually students who go to art schools can't do IB because IB has very content-specific courses where the arts are kind of just supplemental. It's not designed for students who, they're dedicated to a particular art. But it's very, very rigorous, and it's a diploma program from the College Board. It's based on 2 year-long AP courses. 2 courses, AP. That's what the AP capstone program is based on. But it requires a total of 6 AP courses because there's the other 4 regular ones required. Once the students have done those 4 regular ones and passed, if they want the AP capstone diploma, which they can get through either the seminar course, AP course in seminar, or the AP course in research. Rather than teaching subject-specific content, these courses develop the students' skills in research, analysis, evidence-based arguments, collaboration, writing, and presenting. It's almost like a dissertation project in school, the way that people do in graduate school. That's why it's not subject-related. It's up to the student, and it's done through the AP capstone program with the guidance of our teachers. Students who complete the 2-year program can earn one of 2 different AP capstone awards, which are valued by colleges across the United States and around the world. All of Florida's colleges and universities have confirmed their support of the AP Capstone Diploma Program by signing a statement of support endorsing its rigorous interdisciplinary approach and/or by granting credit for a qualifying score in AP Seminar, AP Research, or both. It requires an additional 4 regular AP courses, as I said, throughout high school, and schools must be approved to offer the AP Capstone program, okay? It's a really neat program for the very, very highly motivated student. Now, off script, real quick. Many of you may know my daughter who just graduated, Christina. Just like a parent, giddy about the fact that she's going to the dorms next week. I'm not yet ready for that, but anyway, that's a different story. But while we were in this process, I had the ability to visit as a parent and sit in meetings like the ones that you're in right now at New York University, at North Texas State, at the University of Miami, which is where she ended up, getting the Fulbright, or which she decided to go, and a couple of other schools. And let me tell you that the most important thing that you students should be focusing on, obviously coming to school and getting high grades is basic, but more so, please make sure that you're focusing on your Stanford, on your SAT scores, or your SAT, and that you're very highly involved in school, that you have something to offer. Those 3 things: the type of student you are every day, your GPA, a very high SAT score. By that I mean at least a 1200, okay? At least a 1200, and remember that the SAT goes up to Algebra 2. So if math is not your forte, again, we are going to offer the dual enrollment, and we have the AP courses and we have the AP Capstone project. Me personally, as an educator, I can tell you that the best value of that is simply that you're going to get accustomed to working at a high level. However, if you're thinking that you're going to go to Miami-Dade on the dual enrollment or something, that then you're going to go to Harvard and you're going to go for 2 years and get your bachelor's, that's not going to happen. time and time again, I heard from every single admissions director, when a parent asked about AP credits, they said, it has to be a degree from our university. It has to be a University of Miami degree. It has to be an MIT degree. So, I'm not discouraging you from advancing and taking college courses in high school. What I'm saying is, do not think for 1 second that that's going to take the place of a substandard SAT score, because the colleges are way too strict about that. Anything below a 1200 starts becoming iffy, okay? 1350, 1400, 1500, you're talking not only full scholarships, you're also talking Ivy League. But if you think that, well, I have a 950 on my SAT composite, and because I took, 2 AP classes and passed the test, I'm gonna get in. No, it's not gonna happen. So my job is to be honest with you and let you know that if you're struggling, or if you're really concerned about college and how to pay for it, take my advice, having just gone through it with my own kid. Get a high GPA, have A's in all your classes, be highly involved in school so that you can write a really nice essay about all the things that you did when you were here, because they do read that. And that does matter to them, that you were a student government leader, that you were, a top violinist, an award-winning national dancer in your school. That does matter. And of course, a very high SAT score. Or ACT. If you have those 3 things under your belt, you are pretty much going to go to your first 2 choices of college. Anything other than that, it's not guaranteed. Or you may be accepted, but you won't get enough scholarship money to pay for it. All right, this is first-hand experience, I can tell you right now. Okay, other programs out here, folks, for FSAs and EOCs. That's good? Is that good? I hear everybody likes IXL, so we're bringing it back, correct? Yes? Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you like doing this stuff. I'm saying that you like the fact that it's helping you prepare. Okay? I just talked about SAT and ACT. Please remember that we pay for all high school kids, I believe starting from either 8th or 9th grade, 8th and going into high school, for PrepWorks, which is a 24/7 ACT prep program. You have to pay, I believe, over $1,500 to buy that yourself. It's a 24/7 online tool. Please take advantage of it. You can all use PrepWorks on a regular basis to tutor yourself online for the SAT, in addition to the fact that we also require that our teachers pay attention to preparing you for the SAT class as well. But that program is there. Intensive math and intensive reading is in place and required of all students who score either 1 or 2 in their FSAs in math and reading. Yes, parents, you're allowed to request a waiver if you don't want them in those courses, but we highly encourage students to remain in those courses, because if they're getting a 1 on a reading standardized test, obviously something is wrong. But I do notify you that you have that right. If you think, oh, my daughter was just sick that day and I know she's going to pass it, but we usually tell parents, if they're struggling, let us have that extra period of intense instruction to help bridge gaps, especially if they're coming from another school where we don't know exactly what they probably have done. PE, all 6th and 7th graders who are not in intensive math or intensive reading in middle school go into PE, or they can also go into 8th grade into Spanish. And by the way, that Spanish that they go into in 8th grade is a high school level credit, so that when they get to high school, they only have to take 1 more, and then they have their 2 years of foreign languages, which is what is required under Florida Life Future Scholarship. Okay? It's a requirement, it's not the only requirement, of course. Let's talk about arts program improvements this year. As you know, we have begun and phased in, starting this year, musical theater at the high school level. And yeah, you can clap. I know that's the creative writing program, as we speak, is expanding. We will still have creative writing, but we are expanding it as to an overall media arts program. And we are moving them upstairs to the 6th floor next to visual art, photo, and they're the 2 rooms, the old computer labs are on the 6th floor. One of them will be the creative writing and media writing program, where students will not just, you're still going to do the poetry and the fine art aspect of it, but also internet writing, journalism, screenplay writing, all of that will also be part of the creative writing program. And right next door to it, there's a room that we are going to be phasing in film and short film and creative film and cinema and that type of thing. So that whole area of photo, film, writing, it's all going to be its own suite. We've also added for that reason, additional room to the visual art program, and we've increased our teaching staff in the visual art program to 5 teachers. It's one of our biggest programs, and we're very excited about all the people that we have on the staff, including 2 that I brought from the Homestead campus that I can personally tell you are going to be extremely impressed with. Our art department, our visual art program is going to be phenomenal. It already was, it's going to be much better now. So film is being phased in this year. When I say phased in, we're getting equipment, and we may start with just adjunct teachers, but eventually you will find that as a major art area on our website. Visual arts is being expanded with this new staff that we have to digital art and design. So if a student has eventually an interest in architecture or, you know, designing cool things or whatever, that will be an area that they can go specialize in. We will still maintain the drawing, the painting, the photography, the editing, the digital art, but nowadays, it's very important that we give our kids as many tools as possible. We are also phasing in arts, business, and entrepreneurship, which will meet right here on the 5th floor, and that will be available to all arts programs as we develop the curriculum, which is a general business curriculum for kids to learn business. How do I start a company? How do I market? How do I do a business plan? But it will also have elements for each individual art. How do I make money in my art? And that will include also exploring career pathways. You want to be a musician, you want to be a dancer, you want to be a commercial artist, you want to run a website, who knows? That'll all be there, and part of that program will be to bring in mentors, guest speakers, and people from the local community to simply share experiences with our kids in order to figure out what pathway they want to pursue in life that will be most successful, most financially feasible for them. Other school year activities, as you know, we have student clubs. Students may request for a club to be approved by contacting the activities director, Ms. Ashley Murga. Club approval is based on appropriateness in school, and they must have an adult sponsor. And I want to mention that clubs have to be, student motivated. Touching back on our indoctrination or bias policy, if we don't like for there to be a teacher who's hyperactive with a political issue and she's going to sponsor this club, or the kids are all going to, no, that's not how clubs work. Clubs are, student has an interest in chess or sewing, or they like politics and they want to talk about current events, that's fine. The reason that they have to seek out a sponsor is to make sure that the rules are being followed, that kids are supervised, that the club is appropriate, that nothing dangerous is going on, that nobody is disappearing. But clubs are student activities. They are not teacher activities, and they're not teacher-led. They're only teacher-supervised. Teacher-led activities is the academic core curriculum during the day and our arts programs. Clubs are supervised, but they are not teacher-inspired, okay? Because unless there's a teacher happens to like chess, and I understand. But I want to stay away from the dangerous types of situations where an adult is influencing kids to get into a crazy club. So we do monitor that, and they have to be approved. We have pep rallies, as you know. Each pep rally will be organized with fun Max Period activities, and we encourage students to wear Max Period gear. Each pep rally will present Max skits, talented performers, and a DJ. And we're also excited to reintroduce Mac Mori, our live school mascot. You've met Mac by now, is that all? If you haven't, if you're new, you'll meet him. It's a big green walking eel. BYOD, bring your own device. Students may bring electronic devices such as iPads, laptops, or other similar non-cell phone items to school to use in class under adult or teacher supervision. Please note that the school is not liable for damage or loss of electronic devices. Please be cautious with your electronic devices. If a student loses their cell phone, yeah, do we make an announcement and try to help them find it? Yes. But are we liable or responsible or pay the parent back for it? No. Okay, it's their responsibility to look after their devices. The unauthorized use or visible possession of cell phones or other electronic devices in school is not permitted. I want you to listen closely, kids. Cell phones may not be seen, utilized, or heard on campus in any place at any time. That means you're walking in front of an assistant principal's office and you have a phone in your back pocket, in your butt, on your skinny jeans, the way you guys like to do. He has the right to take it from you. Why? Because otherwise we're playing a cat and mouse game. You're not happening to use it right there while he's watching you, but then you go in the bathroom and you start using it. We don't want to see them, we don't want to feel them, we don't want to know about them. As I mentioned earlier, 99% of the cases that come to my office for discipline, all started on the cell phone. Always. They're a pain in the neck. Now, some exceptions will apply, as approved by the administration, such as using a phone as a photo or an audio tool in an arts class, or as a directly supervised activity in a classroom. So if an English teacher says you can use your phone to do research and that teacher is there supervising to make sure that that's what you're doing. Or if you're in a photo class and you have a great phone with gazillion megabyte, megapixel, all this superstar stuff that's out there, you're taking pictures with it, and the teacher's there, that's fine. If you're in the bathroom sitting on the floor crying, and you're texting all your friends, and you're not in class, that's not allowed. That's not an appropriate use. And the only way we can prevent that is by saying, don't have them out, period. Okay? Now, all electronic devices shall be immediately put away at the conclusion of the approved activity. Cell phones shall only be permitted after school, outside of the building, Kids will say, oh, but it's after school. I don't care that it's after school. Outside of the building, okay? Out on the sidewalk, where you're texting your mom, come get me, I'm out here on 23rd Street and it's hot, okay? That's appropriate use. Inside the building, after school, when nobody's coming to pick you up, and you're caught in some little incident with all your friends, and it's inside the building, that's inappropriate, okay? Just to coordinate transportation. The cell phone restriction means that cell phones may not be used during lunch, in restrooms, in classrooms, subject to the exceptions, in hallways, stairwells, or outside during PE classes. So if we drive up and we see you when the class is working out, you're leaning against the wall, you're on your phone with your headphones on, you're asking for that phone to be taken away. Cell phones are subject to confiscation on site. Confiscated phones may only be retrieved in the main office by a parent during normal school hours, no exceptions. So if you have a phone, and I know you all do, you put it in your book bag. I would suggest you turn it off and just wait until after school to text your mom to let her know you're okay and to come pick you up. Now, if you need it in your class, the teacher says take out your phones, let's take some pictures, let's do some research, that's fine. If you extend that to the hallways and the bathrooms and to getting into fights with your friends, it's mine. And your parent has to come pick you up. Okay? And I hope parents you can support that, because really it's just crazy chasing after them with the phones. It's better than just not having them. Okay? It's too time consuming. Attendance policy. Miami Orange Charter School follows the Miami-Dade County Public Schools attendance policy. Absences, tardies, and early sign-out situations are all subject to the policy, which can be found on the website. And remember that excessive excused or unexcused absences can lead to withholding of course credit. So if you have a lot of absences in any particular class, if you're coming late every morning to your first period class and you have 25 absences, credit can be withheld from that course. Now, if you're sick and you're going to have to miss, 15 days of school for back surgery, you need to notify us before that so that we can have a plan in place for you to get your work so that you don't fall behind. If by some chance, and I hope this doesn't happen, sometimes students get a chronic, like a serious illness, and they have to be out of school for 3 or 4 months. There is such a thing as homebound, which is another school which you have to apply for and be accepted on their end. But should that happen, where it's basically a teacher comes to you, you're in the hospital, or you're at home, you're bedridden, you had a surgery, or whatever the case is, you withdraw from that, you go to homebound, and when you recover, you just come back in. There's no audition, there's nothing like that, but we don't have the ability to teach you for 3 months while you're not here. So if you go into an alternative health-related program that you have evidence for, you can come back in without any problems, okay? That's just for serious health issues. Remember that all absences are determined unexcused or excused by the school. So you have to submit a note or an official document to the homeroom teacher on either your A or B day. Remember that on your B day, you have a homeroom teacher as well, okay? And they will forward that note to the office. The office will see the note, whether it's a doctor's note or a note from your parent, make a determination whether that absence is excused or unexcused, and it gets marked into the grade book, into the attendance system. By doing that, the teachers are all then notified, and then that's how your teacher will know whether you're entitled to make up work or not subsequent to that. So first, the absence has to be approved or unapproved through the school. And please, parents, don't forget, a lot of times it's right before the grading period, and the student has 5 unexcused absences that's bringing down their grade, and like 9 weeks later, they're asking us to excuse all of those. Because I forgot to send the note, they were at the doctor. It has to be within a reasonable amount of time, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Please don't send us notes from 5 weeks ago, because that's just not something that we can entertain, all right? Illness of the student, these are the excused absences. Illness, medical appointment, death in the family, observance of a religious holiday, outdoor suspensions, or any other individual circumstance that is beyond your control on a case-by-case basis as approved by the administration. 10 or more absences are excused or unexcused are what can subject you to not getting credit in a course for an annual course, meaning a class that meets all year, or 5 or more unexcused absences in a semester course, a course that meets for half the year, which would be government or economics in 12th grade, because those classes each only meet for half the year. Because of the block schedule, please remember, we have 100-minute classes. Each time a student is absent, he misses or she misses the equivalent of 2 days of school. Because 100-minute in a regular schedule would be 2 50-minute periods. So it's like missing 2 days of work. That's why it's important that you not miss school. And I should mention that in high school, there is one class that will meet every day, Monday through Friday, for 50 minutes as the last period class. The reason for that is that that was the only way we could do the schedule and still have the 2 separate dismissal times. And the reason we did that was because, of course, we eliminated the 7th period course that nobody wanted anymore, including the teachers and the students. For more policy information on attendance, you can visit our website. Emergency contact, and I'm sorry, I hope I'm not boring you. I know it's boring sitting there listening to somebody talk so much. I'll do a dance number after this. For student safety reasons, school policy mandates that no person other than the person on the emergency contact card will be allowed to sign a student early from school. So I'll just summarize this and letting you know that you get contact cards distributed on the first 2 days of school. Parents, it's up to you to please check. If there's someone on that card or on that notification that you do not want, you want removed from being able to pick up your child or being in touch with them. Sometimes a parent will have a restraining order or a judge's order of somebody that's dangerous for their child. You have to let us know. Okay, give us that documentation or give us that notification and we will mark it there. On the other hand, sometimes somebody new has popped up in life that's going to be able to pick your child up from school and you forget to tell us, and you have an emergency, you're going to need your kid picked up and somebody shows up, we're going to ask for their driver's license or some form of believable ID, and if their name is not on that card, we're not going to release them. So please remember to update the emergency contact card and put it in, making sure that you read through that. Check for your home address information, emergency contact phone numbers. People change phone numbers all the time. Something happens, your kid slips and falls, breaks an arm, or gets hurt. Sometimes we go on the computer system and the phone number is not accurate. Quite often that happens. So we go to the emergency contact card, so update your latest phone number. We're getting close. Code of conduct, I already talked about it. Read through it. We are contractually obligated to follow the code of conduct of Miami-Dade County Public Schools. We do that by agreement. Be familiar with it. Remember that there are certain violations that are very serious and that have lasting repercussions, students. And read the section on online behaviors, which are also included in there. If you do something that is a code of conduct violation and you're not on campus, it can still be enforced through the school. So just read it so that you don't take any unnecessary risks and make any bad decisions. Parents, you too should become familiar with the code of conduct, and remember that there are some there that require, whether I like it or not, for the police to be contacted. There are certain things that kids do in school that I don't have a choice. It's a police automated report that, and it says it clearly, that must be called, and it's the police that decides whether that student is going to be arrested or not, or in dubious cases, they'll call the state attorney's office. At that point, the school doesn't have a decision to make. The school is simply, and I want you to understand that as well, schools deal with code of conduct violation issues from the school's perspective, not the criminal. When a crime is committed, we are required to report it to the local police department, and the police department and the state attorney's office decides that, not the principal. So a lot of times people say, oh, the principal had my kid arrested. No, I'm obligated. If somebody commits a crime in school, there's a consequence that I can issue as principal in here in school. But as far as the legal aspect of it, that has to go into the criminal justice system. It's very important for kids to understand that sometimes I don't have the choice. So stay away from those situations and read through it and be very familiar with it, okay? Remember that a referral is only documentation. Parents will ask me to remove a referral. I can't do that once something happens. So I mentioned that earlier. I want to reiterate that again because I get requests for that every year. We do have the Saturday detention program that you all know about is in place. That actually works better than suspensions. The suspensions sometimes they actually celebrate, but coming on a Saturday morning from 9 to 12 is not something that kids are particularly fond of. So for the lower level infractions like chronic, a little bit of too much disruption or talking or the cases, non-criminal things, where we lean more to chronic dress code violations and or anything like that, we lean more towards the Saturday detentions because it's more effective. And it's in lieu of suspension, which means I don't put a suspension referral in the record, so that helps you as well. And it's also a lot more effective because kids think twice if they have to be here on a Saturday. They'd rather just not come into infraction.
Sure.
We record everything. I've already said everything that's on here. Dress code, we are a dress code school, not a uniform school. We reserve the right to exclude students from class if they violate the dress code policy. Dress code violations shall be primarily addressed through the Saturday detention program. So when you violate the dress code, we understand. We don't want to be harassing parents. A lot of times, if, somebody's wearing something they shouldn't be, and mom's at work, it's a punishment to the parent to have to leave work to come. So parents, what you have to do is just monitor what they wear. Remember that they like to change once they get here. They look like one thing when they leave home, and then they hear it's something else. All right? So make sure you're aware of that. We will try to primarily deal with it from the detention perspective. And I want you to know that look, we don't have the energy, and I personally don't have the interest in chasing around a bunch of 12-year-old girls about what they're wearing. But we know that we have to have some limits because kids will make mistakes and pass boundaries that is not good for them and that is not in their best interest. So if we call you, it's because it's out of hand. This is the 5th time she's always wearing this, go home, and I'm probably not even going to have a discussion because to me that's a parent's job. Okay? But the minor ones, we will try to give them warnings. We'll try to have sweaters that we give them. We'll give them detentions. But there are some students that will come to the point where, like, what part don't you understand? Go home, and mom want to talk to me, and I'm not going to talk about it too much. Because, what part of dress right for school do you not understand? Okay? The dress code is on our website. Lunch is the same as last year, $4.75 for the hot or cold option, and $1 for the drink. Bezzy is here today, up on the 6th floor, and he will, 6th floor or lobby, I'm not sure. I think he was changed, but for the lunch program, you can speak to Chef Bezzy, who's here, and he's back on this campus. If you don't know him, you will, you'll love him. He's been with us for 10 years, never missed a day of work in the food program. Student schedules. Students must report to their first class on the first day of school. That list, so that you know where that first class is up on the 6th floor. When you leave this here today, you're gonna go up the lobby where the elevator is, and I'm sorry, it's gonna be probably pretty hot in there this time of day with the sun coming in through the glass. But right in front of the elevators on the 6th floor lobby, find your name, and it'll have a room number next to it. That's where you go on the first day on the 19th. That's where you're gonna go on the first day of school. Remember that you don't see all your teachers on the first day of school because of the block schedule. So you need to bring that schedule back with you on the 2nd day so that those other teachers can sign you in the course as well to make sure that everybody saw everybody on the first day of those classes. The list will remain posted upstairs beyond the first day of school for a few days in case you need to go back. You forgot where you've been going for the last 3 or 4 days. It happens. Students will receive their academic schedules on the first day of school in their first class. Please don't ask for it today. Don't worry about, well, I don't know if I have math, English, or science. Just bring your notebooks for all your classes in your book bag, and we will take it from Monday because there's just no way to get it all done today for all of you in one day. Each teacher throughout the day will initial the student schedules to ensure that students meet all teachers on the first A and B day. Don't lose your schedules. Don't get home on Monday, throw it out, because then on Tuesday, your 2, 4, 6 teachers are going to ask you for it, and you're not going to have it. All right? Parents are not to escort their children into the building on the first day. You can kiss them goodbye in the car, but please, you don't want 300 parents walking their kids to class. That's more of a middle school problem, but you never know. The Miami Arts Charter School website, you already know is MiamiArtsCharter.net, but a totally new, improved website is coming soon. It'll be simple, beautiful, it's a new interface, it'll be student-focused, it'll have performances and artwork, and the kids are going to be very involved in maintaining our school website, given that we have this great visual art program. It's going to be mobile phone optimized, and it's going to be very, very cool. Our Back to School night, open house, September 18th at 7 p.m. Please make sure that you mark down that date. Arts area meetings, those meetings are about an hour long, and that's the individual meetings that art teachers hold with parents to explain the course, materials that they have to buy, and things like that. So for chorus and vocal music, Ms. Christine De La Rosa, my wife and co-founder, along with Mr. Herner, and Ms. Lilium Teruel. Ms. Lee had sent a message out that Ms. Salinas was coming back as part-time teacher in middle school. However, that position is also full-time. It ended up being like we have too many kids, including music theory, so there's a change there. And we're hiring Ms. Lilium Teruel to assist in choral program and music theory. The dance program meeting, and that's on August 22nd. All of our arts meetings are at 6 o'clock, okay? Please make sure you come to these. The dance meeting for parents is August 27th. This is not open house. This is arts meetings where they're going to give you information about field trips, events, dance costumes, music instruments, drama shows, all that type of stuff, field trips. August 27th is the dance program with Ms. Ford, Mr. Talbot, and Ms. Hannah Baumgarten are all three now teachers at MAC in the dance program. Ms. Barrero remains with us, who's also our great dance teacher, but she's now as assistant principal and arts administrator. The theater program with Ms. Perkins, Mr. Arteche, and Ms. Palomino at August 28th. Visual art and photo, our largest department are in the arts. Gary Logan, Mr. Perdomo, Ms. Larson, Mr. Forehand, and Ms. Danches. All of those are returning teachers to MAC. They've all been working at MAC. Ms. Danches and Mr. Logan come to us from the Homestead campus. They are phenomenal teachers. Mr. Perdomo, Mr. Forehand, and Ms. Larson, you already know them well, are incredible teachers as well. So we have an additional visual art teacher this year as well as an additional visual art room because that program is growing. Their meeting is August 28th as well. Creative writing with Ms. Castells, which would be creative and media writing, August 27th. And the instrumental music parent night will be with myself, Mr. Jurek, Mr. Gonzalez, and Dr. Sutton, our percussion teacher, and that will be on August 28th. And now that we're back to one campus, I'm really excited about being in one place every day in my life. And I'm very excited about conducting and playing with the orchestra and the band again. So let's welcome all of us back to MAC for a great year. Finally, to conclude, at the end of this meeting, parents and students, if you're new, you may tour the building for up to 30 minutes to become familiar with classroom locations. Please do not enter into any classrooms or attempt to engage teachers as they're busy preparing for their classes for opening day. Once we make an announcement to vacate the premises, please do so promptly so that we can resume our work. Homeroom class list, again, reminder, up on the 6th floor. If your name's not on the list, if your name is on there twice, I've seen a student this morning, we don't know if we have two different students with two different grades or if we mistake. You go downstairs and see Miss Mobley in the 1st floor, and we will write it down to fix it. Thank you guys. You have a fantastic year. Love you all, can't wait to see you.
Let's go tour. Let's go. Пошли.
А вот Ульч. 430.
Вот моя учительница, и вот она по-английски должна выучить. Смотри, какой маленький, у меня вообще... Я что,
430, ты же еще сверь.
я хочу.
Что ты? Просто вот так вот. Это 4-й этаж.
Диана в 432.
Ну, рядом будет.
Это хумус.
Вид. Завис. Вот он, вертолет, завис.
Tiene que tomar la ventana con eso para que la luz
Такой вид.
Now we have to go up to the 5th floor.
Тут какая-то стройка идет, что-то. Обычно строят. Ага. Сейчас. А там вот даунтаун, наверное. Сейчас аккуратненько. Что, пошли?